Hi, everyone, and welcome to week 5 in Writing 210. I hope you had a good weekend and that your week is starting out well. So, this week in Writing 210, we're really talking about sort of following rules. And our goal is to build our vocabulary to talk about grammatical concepts. So, we'll really be focusing on learning grammatical concepts and terms for words and sentences. And you will also be responsible for completing your first style experiment and completing the asynchronous workshop of style experiment number 1. So before Wednesday, you need to complete style experiment number 1. So that's due at 3 o'clock on Wednesday. You submit it to Blackboard. We won't be having class on Wednesday because, as I mentioned last week, I'm going to be out of town. So that's just a reminder to keep in your head. No class on Wednesday. So between Wednesday, when you submit your first style experiment, and the end of the week, there are a few things that you'll need to complete. So you should read Colne and Gray's Words and Phrases, which has been in the week 5 folder. You should also respond to one discussion board. We only have one this week for week 5, and also respond to one of your classmates' posts. And then finally, you should complete the asynchronous workshop for style experiment number 1. So when you look in the week 5 folder, you'll see a new document there that's listed or that's named Instructions for Style Experiment Workshop. And in that, you'll see a link to a video that sort of walks you through the entire process. And there's also written instructions, links to the Google Drive and other things that you'll be using to submit your work to share with your classmates. So by the end of the day, or end of the day on Sunday, the end of the week, you should make sure that you've done the discussion board, you've done the reading, and that you've responded to all of your classmates' drafts on the on Blackboard or on the Google Drive. So hopefully that all makes sense. If you have questions about that, then after you've read through the instructions, then definitely let me know. This week, our focus is really on these sort of parts of speech, the classes of words that Colne and Gray talk about, and understanding what works, what words and parts of speech do in sentences. So we're really kind of getting into the nitty-gritty of how English sentences work. So to start out, I want to review some of the kind of key concepts that are probably pretty familiar to you. So when we think about language, what we're most kind of used to is kind of thinking about what these definitions are. So we know that a noun typically refers to a person, place, or thing, that a verb is a word that shows action. An adjective or an adjectival word is one that describes a noun, and an adverb or an adverbial is a word that describes a verb. However, Colne and Gray offer a different way of understanding these different forms of words. Rather than just kind of thinking about the meaning, what they offer is a way of understanding the work that these words do in sentences. So rather than understanding a noun as simply a person, place, or thing, they think that, or they frame a noun as a word that could be made plural and or possessive that occupies the head word position, sort of like the main word at the beginning of a sentence, and is signaled by a determiner. So a determiner is a word like a or an or the. They describe a verb as more than just a word that shows action, but a word that can also show tense. So kind of thinking that a verb shows action, but it also can be showing action that happened in the past or in the future, or that could have in the future. And so the verb is typically a word that occupies the head word space in a verb phrase. Then they also talk about the adjective or adjectival as things that are modifying nouns or modifiers of verb. Or I'm sorry, and an adverb is something that modifies a verb. So what they're doing is rather than just defining the term, they're talking about what the term is actually doing in the sentence and the form that it actually takes. And so in order to do this, they offer some more kind of concepts or information to kind of help indicate this, these details. So they differentiate between form classes and structure classes. So these are kind of categories of words. So there are words that have a form purpose, and then there are words that have a structural purpose. So the form classes are words that can be identified or interpreted based on their form. So for example, inflected nouns or verb tenses or comparative and contrastive nouns. So these words are words that nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs, these are all form classes of words because we can understand what they're doing based on the form of the word itself. So we understand that a word like ran a verb like ran is focusing on past tense, where if we were to use the word run, we know that that is in present tense. Or if we were to use running, we know that it is happening right now because it has the gerund ing ending. So the form of the word gives us information about what that word is doing in the actual sentence. Structural classes are words that signal how the form class words are actually related to each other in the sentence. So if we say, so those are words like determiners, pronouns, auxiliary verbs, conjunctions, qualifiers, interrogatives, and prepositions. These are all words that are defined in the chapter that you're reading. So pay attention to those. And if you run across a word that you're unfamiliar with, then definitely look it up and get some background information. But for example, a structural word that such as or like if we say the dog, so if we were to have a sentence that says the dog runs across the street. If we use a determiner, then we know that we're talking about a specific dog, that it's this dog is running across the street. However, if we were to change the determiner and say a dog, we don't know which dog it is. It's just a dog. And so it's a different kind of, that determiner, however slight, changes our understanding of what dog it is that is being described. And so this is an example of how a structure class word can help us understand the form class words better. So what they're offering in this text is really kind of a different way of understanding and talking about words and sentences and the role that words are actually playing in sentences. So as you read their Colin and Gray's chapter from their textbook, I'd like you to kind of consider a couple of questions. So first, kind of in your mind, try to figure out how Colin and Gray are really describing sentences. But then I'd like you to kind of think, how does this description or discussion of sentences fit into your own understanding and experiences with grammar, usage, or language? So this is the question that I'm going to ask you to explore in your discussion board post this week. So as you're reading, kind of keep in mind, like, okay, so this is how they're talking about language and grammar. How does this fit with how I learned it in elementary school or middle school? So that's really a focus for this week. As a reminder, no class on Wednesday, but you've got some asynchronous work to complete before the end of the week. And if you have questions, if you run into issues at any point during, don't hesitate to let me know. I'll be, although I won't be on campus, I will be available by email and I'll respond to your messages as soon as I can. I hope you all have a great week and I'm looking forward to seeing you next Wednesday. Take care.